This was Hitler's wonder weapon, a fighter plane that could win the war for Germany. A marvel of engineering, it was a last-ditch attempt to turn the tide for the Nazis. This is the world's first operational fighter jet, the Messerschmitt 262. But how did the ME 262 come into existence? How did it perform in combat? And could it have turned the war in Hitler's favor? Let's answer all these questions. Pay attention, as there is a mistake in the video which we purposely left for you to uncover. After you've found it, tell us what you think it is in the comments below. And now, let's dive into the Messerschmitt 262's story. Before the start of World War II, Germany saw the potential of jet-powered fighter aircraft, and German engineers started designing a feasible prototype. This would come into existence as the Heinkel 178, which had its first successful test flight just as Germany invaded Poland in September 1939. As a result, the ME 262 was already under development before the start of the war. But the original design was very different from the aircraft that eventually entered service. The biggest issues regarding the project were the engines, which encountered various technical problems. But the jet fighter program was interrupted by a lack of funding, which was primarily due to a prevailing attitude amongst high-ranking Nazi officials, who thought that the conflict could be easily won with conventional aircraft. In February 1940, Hermann Göring, head of the Luftwaffe at the time, cut the jet engine development program to just 35 engineers. Nevertheless, despite all the budget cuts and technical obstacles, the Messerschmitt 262 had its first successful test flight on the 18th of July 1942. It was equipped with two Jumo turbojet engines, which would become the mainstay for the production series. With its swept wings, nose-mounted front wheel, and wing-mounted engines, the ME 262 had many innovative features, besides being the first operational jet fighter. During mid-1943, Adolf Hitler envisioned the Messerschmitt 262 as a ground attack or bomber aircraft, rather than a defensive interceptor. As a high-speed, light-payload fast bomber, it was intended to penetrate enemy airspace during the expected Allied invasion of France. His edict resulted in development efforts being concentrated on the Sturmvogel ground attack variant. Therefore, Hitler's interference delayed bringing the Schwalbe jet fighter variant into operation. In his memoirs, Albert Speer, the German Minister of Armament, claimed Hitler had originally blocked mass production of the ME 262 before agreeing to it in early 1944. Similar criticisms were voiced by Adolf Galland, one of the German flying aces. Hitler rejected arguments that the aircraft would be more effective as a fighter against Allied bombers, which were destroying large parts of Germany from 1943 onwards, and wanted the Messerschmitt 262 as a bomber for revenge attacks. According to Speer, Hitler felt the plane's superior speed meant it could not be attacked, but the ME 262 would prove to be quite the opposite of what Hitler desired. With a maximum speed of 1,000 kilometers per hour, an operational range of 1,050 kilometers, and four 30mm cannons, the ME 262 would become a force to be reckoned with in the skies above Germany. The thing is, when serial production of the plane commenced, in 1944, Germany was lacking critical heat-resistant materials for the engines. Therefore, the Messerschmitt 262's engines had a very short lifespan of less than 50 hours of use. Moreover, production was initially limited, with fewer than 100 aircraft built during the first months. But let's see how the plane performed in combat. On the 8th of August, 1944, the first air-to-air kill was obtained when Lieutenant Joachim Weber shot down a British Mosquito plane above Munich. That month, the first unit to be equipped with the new fighter jets, Erprobungskommando 262, shot down 19 Allied aircraft for only 6 Messerschmitt 262s lost. But after renowned German flying ace Walter Nowotny was killed, following an engine failure on his jet, the unit was withdrawn from combat operations and sent for further flight training and trials. After some more fighter jets were produced and more jet fighter units were formed and trained, the Luftwaffe was finally able to mount large-scale attacks on Allied bomber formations using the Messerschmitt 262. On the 18th of March 1945, 37 Me-262s intercepted a force of 1,200 bombers and 600 escorting fighters. They shot down 12 bombers and 1 fighter for the loss of 3 Me-262s. Although a 4-to-1 kill-to-loss ratio was exactly what the Luftwaffe needed, the scale of their success was minor, as it represented only 1% of the attacking force. Up until the end of the war, in May 1945, German jet fighter units were sent in similar engagements, with little chances of success. The Me-262 was also used in ground assault missions in a last-ditch attempt to support German troops fighting Red Army forces during the last days of the war. Therefore, the Messerschmitt 262 represented a token victory for German engineering. It was too little, too late, to have a significant impact on the war's outcome. Nevertheless, the German jet fighter was an outstanding innovation. It was much faster than any Allied aircraft of the time, so fast that German pilots needed new tactics to attack Allied bombers. Similarly, gunners of Allied bomber aircraft found it almost impossible to react to the Me-262s, as their electrically powered gun turrets had problems tracking the jets. Simultaneously, Allied fighters escorting the bombers were almost powerless to react, as they were not fast enough to pursue the incoming Messerschmitt 262s. Late in the war, some German jets were equipped with rocket packs, which allowed the Messerschmitt fighters to easily destroy even the famously rugged B-17 Flying Fortress. Still, the Me-262 had its weaknesses. It was very vulnerable during takeoff and landing, as its engines did not provide sufficient thrust at low airspeeds. Also, the slower piston-powered Allied fighters were much more agile in dogfights and could easily outmaneuver the German jets. Despite its shortcomings, the Messerschmitt 262 was arguably the best individual fighter plane of World War II. About 1,400 jets were produced during the war, but there were never more than 100 available at any time due to the Me-262's characteristic reliability problems and due to Germany's lack of fuel. Taking into account the lengthy design process, high production cost, extensive maintenance needs, and Germany's lack of pilots, the whole Messerschmitt 262 project can be considered an overall fiasco. The resources invested could have been spent much better for Germany at that time of the war, researching night fighter technology or producing more of the already established fighter aircraft. Nevertheless, if the Messerschmitt 262 would have begun its combat service 1 or 2 years prior to its actual date, in 1942, for example, the Allies and Soviets would have faced much tougher opposition in the air war against Nazi Germany. Don't forget to comment down below what you think was the wrong piece of information left in the video. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it. Also, subscribe to our channel, as there are many more videos coming. See you next time at Study of War.